We're getting a nice balance in the water over the site. It has a whole load of uses apart from that though. It's great for wildlife, gives us a whole series of different growing conditions from dry at the top of the bank to very wet down here at the bottom, and something we can exploit in many ways.
Of course, no permaculture site is complete without its trees, but here there's still much growing to do before they reach maturity.
We've planted some 4,000 trees on the site, and it's really nice to have one now that's taller than I am. This is an area of forest garden, and behind me to the southwest we've got hardier species of fruits, things like apples and hazels, and then in front of me we've got the more tender things like the pears, so hopefully the apples will shelter the pears.
As the trees slowly establish themselves, so a lot more volunteers offer their help, and Springfield is becoming a focus for the community. Now the essential groundwork is complete, ideas for future development include equipping the buildings with workshop facilities and a farmhouse kitchen. Value will then be added to the commercial crops by freezing fruit or turning it into jam. They plan to employ 6 people over 2 years, creating an experienced workforce who can help community business to establish. There are schemes to start courses in horticulture and help children with learning difficulties. In addition to doubling the area of cash crops, a wind turbine will be installed to keep goods and services close to home. There's still a long way to go, but already Springfield has been described in the government's Greening of the City report as best practice on a national level. Best of all, this project has made a significant impact on its surroundings, putting people back in touch with their ability to grow food and generally make changes for the better. Away to the southwest, the pursuit of sustainability poses a different set of challenges for the people of Chagford in rural Devon. The Courtyard Cafe, run by the Proper Job Co-op, has become a central focus for local information about permaculture and sustainability. In addition to an everyday menu, the cafe sells organic produce, craft items, plants and books. It's also home to the local exchange trading system, known as Let's for short. This enables people to swap skills, goods and services in a local currency known as tins. All this sprang from small beginnings with a community composting scheme. Project coordinator Nikki Scott explains.
The composting project came about because I noticed that an awful lot of people from Chagford just dumping garden materials. I don't like to call them waste anymore because they're resources, by the way. Just dumping them into the civic amenity skips in the car park. And so I rang up County Hall and said, this is crazy with the problems it's causing for landfill. Surely we can do something with them, you know. We can compost them. Why don't you send someone round with a shredder? And the Allotment Association, myself, will compost them. And Gerard Cooper, who I talked to there, thought that would be too difficult to arrange, but he did suggest that they gave us a shredder and that we picked up the materials and we shredded them up and composted them. And we've been doing that for the last 3 years or more now, and making a lot of compost. As I said, it doesn't attract a huge amount of volunteers. You need some sort of fairly hardcore people to do that, and the cafe volunteers have been a lot easier to come along. But now we can give them a free lunch in the cafe and trade in tins with our compost. And we've also got this sieve now, so we can sieve out and make a much better quality product. And we've stuck at it for 3 years, whereas, you know, it's quite a difficult thing to keep going. The amount of materials we've had brought has increased. First of all, it seemed to double every month because we were collecting them on a monthly basis when the skip came. And it's sort of stabilised now, but we can be slightly phased by very large trailer loads of what used to be called green waste, which, as I said, is a resource.
Nikki's time is now divided between work in the shop, setting up composting schemes all over Devon, and growing food for his family. Any surplus goes to the cafe.
Well, this is some of our garlic. We're doing a whole quarter of the the allotment bed in garlic this year, 3 different varieties, growing an awful lot so we can hopefully supply the cafe with some as well, and the shop. Now I thought this bed was interesting because this was very weed infested before, and we did very serious barrier mulching on it. You can just see odd bits of paper around, heavy newspaper, cardboard, and then masses of grass cuttings on top. And it was sown up with a green manure crop, some of which you might be able to see in the foreground, the Phacelia here. Those are just volunteers from that crop, which I've left because they're good to attract predatory insects such as hoverflies. And it's left the soil in superb condition for this garlic, which I'm very pleased with. And if we get a nice dry end to the season, it should harvest beautifully.
On an adjacent bed, a different technique has been employed to achieve long-lasting fertility.
Oh, that's not a permaculture system. This is actually the 4th year permaculture system. This is actually the 4th year of what's called a German mound garden. And what we did here is we excavated the top foot or so spit of soil, put it to one side, and then another spit in the middle. And that way we could get rid of a lot of woody materials that we had. Instead of composting them, instead of shredding them up first or burning them, they've been buried deep down in the soil. So it's a kind of slow compost heap. And on top of that have gone layers of leaves, shreddings, some garden compost, and then the earth back on top. And this is the 4th year in the rotation. It's going to be sown up for carrots now. I sow them late to avoid the first generations of carrot fly, so it's ready to go right away. Of course, it wouldn't be real permaculture without trees. We're trying to establish a line of trees up the edge of our allotment, and with a lot of bushes and shrubs and other plants underneath. This cherry's been in its 2nd year of cropping, and as long as the birds don't get them all, I hope we'll get a good crop of cherries this year. And the blackcurrants will help with the cherries too, and help establish a windbreak and a whole lot of other things. And we're going to plant up more strawberries, ground cover strawberries, raspberries around. We've got some hawthorn growing here. We've got some wild plants for insect attraction. And it's all starting to happen down the edge. Further up on the allotments there's an example of a very well established forest edge, which you can see, you'll see how it looks in a few years. This is what I hope our allotment will look like eventually. Some beautiful mature apple trees and other fruit trees and nut trees, some fruit bushes in front, and in front of that, sheltering from the wind, there's a hedge and other trees to break it up, allowing these trees to really mature and develop nicely.
On a nearby plot, David Osbiston attends to his chicken house. Made with recycled wood, this unique structure on a central pole is easy to clean and keeps the chickens safe from predators. A deliberately rickety access ladder will support the weight of a bird, but would collapse if climbed by a fox or badger. Maximum output for minimum labour is the result of thoughtful design. The welfare of these chickens is easily